Let's talk about making promises to ourselves. One of the things we got to do in life is decide to do stuff and then like actually do it, you know? How good are you at that? Can you make a decision? Can you be decisive and then keep your promise to yourself? I want to talk about keeping promises. One of the things I like about my life right now is I get a lot of like physical things in my environment. These are a bunch of shoes, barefoot shoes. I got a new barefoot shoe video coming out soon. I really like that there's so much physical stuff in my space that reminds me of the promises that I've made. Because I am sometimes good at keeping these promises to myself and other times not that good, right? Sometimes life just gets in the way. Sometimes I have not enough self-discipline. I get distracted. Sometimes I don't actually want to keep that promise, and I'm no longer the person I was when I made that promise. And so I'm okay with breaking promises, because that's a thing too, you know? You can make promises and you can keep them. You can also break promises. You can break them, right? Sometimes that's required, but nobody wants to be known as like a promise breaker. So like Jesus said, we want our yes to be yes and our no to be no. I don't think I'll be able to use this, but I'm gonna pretend I'm moving this camera somewhere right now. Because I needed to like end that last shot with like a boom. You know, as I'm making this video, it's actually my anniversary. We've been married for 16 years now. That's not nothing, right? That's a great example of the kind of promise that we make, that I have made in my life. And that's a 16-year promise up to now. My wife and I burned our vows. We're not the same people we were when we got married. That is so common. But there's still parts of our promise that are innate. In fact, she burned her vows, then accidentally spilled water on my vows. And when I was looking at my vows, I was like, this is your ceremony, this is not mine. Like, I'm cool with all of this still. I'm like, these are pretty good vows. We wrote our own. And hers were from a different time and a different her. She was like, I'm ready to burn these. And I was totally fine with that. Right? But she tried to light mine on fire and they wouldn't light. It was perfect. So in a marriage, I'm like keeping some of the promise, but other parts of it are changing for the sake of the deeper agreement that we've actually made with each other. What I want to talk about specifically for the purpose of this series of videos is a project is a kind of a promise. I love looking at the etymology of words, okay? Promise, circa 1400, quote, a solemn pledge, a vow, a declaration in reference to the future. So this comes from a Latin word that kind of means to send forth, to let go, to foretell, to like almost prophesy. If you're gonna be a mover and a shaker in the world, you're gonna need to kind of have a executive function of some kind. Did I say executive function? Executive functioning. You need to executively function in a way, like as an ongoing process. As a creator, that's what I'm doing all the time. Why I brought up the shoes before is because this is real promises that I have made specifically to myself to make this video. And I like that there's a physical representation of that promise in my life. It's one of the reasons why I do, like I have all of this stuff around. It reminds, one of the reasons why I have these cards, you know, because they're physical. They remind me sort of in my space. It's not just locked in some computer program somewhere. If you're going to be a creative, if you're going to execute life at a high level, if you're going to need to cultivate an executive functioning that allows you to decide what promises / projects to align yourself with, so that you can actually fulfill them. Because if you live a life where you're constantly breaking promises to yourself, you can get a little, the mind takes on a flavor that can get a little acidic, right? We can get a little anxious. We can get a little distracted What we want is to be able to focus. Projects are like promises. They're going to impact our future. A promise is a declaration, an assurance, a foretelling that requires a kind of outcome in the future. Here at this desk, I am constantly deciding which promises I'm going to be making, right? And I have, by the way, hand-make cards for your spouses, okay? I did a little Waldorf coloring. My kids are in Waldorf. It's a feature, not a bug. The point is, where do you decide which promises you're going to make? What's your solution for figuring out what projects you're going to be doing? What promises are worthwhile for you right now in life, right? We don't need more. What we need is less, but better, more focused, so we can actually step into the future with our yes being yes and our no being no, because that's what makes us great partners, great collaborators, great creators, or not. I mean, maybe that's all. Maybe those are just lies, actually, and I'm still a little bit youth groupy. What do you think? What do you think about promises? And maybe you can do a little inventory on which promises you're actually going to be making. Love you. Bye. This episode is brought to you by Mantra Labs. Mantra Labs make these great just add to your water packets for minerals, vitamins, and sometimes a little stimulant. The Rise and the Go have some caffeine from green tea. I'm partial to the Hydrate these days. Check out what they got. Link in description below. Thanks to Mantra Labs for supporting the channel.